Welcome to another edition of On Scene with TFD. I'm Mike Bellamy, your host and the Public Information Officer for the Tallahassee Fire Department. Did you know that the Tallahassee Fire Department has a station located at the Tallahassee Regional Airport? Or that our airport has specially trained and equipped staff of professionals always on watch as travelers fly in and out of our airport? Well, today's show will feature two individuals who work hard to keep our community safe at one of the region's largest airports. Let's meet them now. David Pollard, you're the Deputy Director of Aviation at the airport. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Lieutenant Fox, thanks for coming in. You're the company officer out at the airport fire station located at the Tallahassee Regional Airport. Thanks for taking time out.
Thanks for having us.
So let's jump right in. David, tell us about your position that you serve in at the Tallahassee Regional Airport.
Sure. I'm currently the Deputy Director of Aviation at the airport, responsible for all airport operations, capital programs, and also the facilities management.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of work.
It is.
How about you, Lieutenant? Tell us about what you're doing right now at the fire station.
Well, I'm part of a 12-member team, 3 officers, 9 engineers, drivers, whose job is to prepare, train, and mitigate any emergencies that happen in, on, or around the airport.
It sounds like quite a task as well. So let's dive right in about the airport itself. I think we were picked up my wife there several weeks ago, and it's one of those places that I think most people in Tallahassee probably don't get out to unless you're an avid traveler or you maybe do a lot of business travel. But tell us about the airport. How many flights come in and out, general aviation versus some of the commercial air flights?
Right. At the airport, we have a great mix of commercial aviation, general aviation, business aviation, and military aircraft that come in and out of the airport every day. So it's important for us to always be prepared, always be ready for those travelers, those aircraft operations that are at the airport. We have over 60,000 annual aircraft operations each year, and that's the air traffic control tower working to bring those aircraft in and out safely, and working with our first responders and stakeholders to get them in and out safely.
So how many employees, when you're looking at like right now out there today, how many folks are out there working, whether it's out there in the front or behind the scenes? How many people?
Well, from the airport standpoint, we have about 50 employees. That's supplemented by our law enforcement and by our aircraft rescue and firefighting team and all. And that does not include the airline managers and their staff as well. So at any given time, we have many, many people out there.
Right, yeah, keeping things going. Lieutenant Fox, how about you? What from the airport fire station, tell us about how many folks are staffed and how that all operates.
Mike, we have a group of unique, dynamic, dedicated individuals that bring a level of professionalism, customer service, from Mary Ann McKee, whose expertise and finesse that can operate the most complex firefighting vehicle, to Bernard Barrington, Randy McCoy. Those men can fix, rig, assemble, disassemble, and solve any problem. My training officer, Roger Bynum. Bo Farrell, a 25-year member of the department who brings a frontline firefighting service and skills. To our paramedics, Steve Boggs, Mark Genter, whose ALS, Advanced Life Support skills are unmatched. And to our newest member, Sid Hall.
So the airport station out there is behind the fence, or where's it at?
We are centrally located because per regulations we have to be able to respond anywhere on the field in less than 3 minutes from the time we receive the call to get into our gear to get our trucks and be operational. We're located at the general aviation ramp, right in between the old terminal and the new terminal.
And is that the original fire station that was out there when they developed all that?
Yes, sir. We moved right next door. Because of our expansion, we had to move the control tower to a better location. So we took advantage of the spot, and because our fire trucks have actually increased in size, we've had to increase our station. So we built a new facility now to accommodate these new units, these larger units.
Now, David, what's it look like in terms of what's happening out there on a daily basis when it relates to safety? Obviously safety is just one of the functions that you deal with as the deputy director and to run that airport every day. So tell us a little bit about what happens on a daily basis that's interesting.
Well, it's important for the public to understand that safety, security, and emergency preparedness are always at the forefront of what we do each day at the airport. keeping things safe, secure, and being ready for those emergencies that might pop up on a moment's notice. It may be a medical diversion, a flight that just drops in that was intending to go to another destination. They may have a medical emergency on board that aircraft. Or it may be a gear failure on the aircraft. Those are the things that we need to be ready for and able to respond to at any given time.
Okay, so that's interesting to think about, you know, flights that aren't destined for Tallahassee that that may need to come in here, that are having mechanical issues, or someone on the plane's you know, having a health issue or something like that. So your staff is going to help coordinate that?
Absolutely, and it's a coordinated effort. We work with our team of first responders, the air traffic control tower. It might be working with our fixed-based operator, Millionaire, to get some additional equipment or personnel to help us out, or working with our collective air carriers, because it very well may be an aircraft or an airline that does not serve Tallahassee traditionally. So if it's a Southwest Airlines aircraft, for example, we need to be ready for that, and we need to be able to handle that aircraft.
Now, Billy, what's the first thing when the when you guys look at the day, right? You got your things, your checklist. What's the first thing that happens out there at the airport?
Louis, our day starts early. At 04:30, our members are out covering every ounce of pavement the aircraft operated on. We're looking for damage, debris, and we're out there verifying that every light and navigational aid is up and operational. Then at 0900, we test the airport's emergency alerting system. It consists of an old-fashioned telephone line that connects the tower to the fire station to Dave's communication center, and that is verified by mandate every morning at 9 o'clock. And then we spend the next couple hours training. Each member is required, you know, to come up with a scenario. Lessons learned, something in the past, whether from our department or other airports around the state. And we look at that incident, we critique it, we talk about you know, what we could have done better. You know, we just don't measure our success, you know, from success. We measure our success from our failures and other people's lessons learned. Then we come in, have some lunch, and spend the rest of the afternoon just going over their equipment and making sure everything is up to snuff. Like the in-town units, we have station duties as well. We have to keep up our station and clean up and get ready to receive the next shift.
So there's those three apparatus out there. There's three special ARF trucks that I think we'll get into here in just a little bit and talk about. I think we have a photograph of one of those in the next segment. And then we also have, so there's one personnel that's assigned to each of those units.
Yes.
And you talk about that tie line, and I've been out there when that buzzes. That's that direct line, and that's how that air traffic controller communicates. So it's interesting to think about how that all the synergy and all the different, because you talk about some of the airlines, they have personnel and they have a staff as well. So when we come back from the break, I want to talk more about that synergy with everything going on.
Great.
All right, don't change that channel. When we come back, more talk about safety at the Tallahassee Regional Airport.
Hey, let me help you with that there, Sparky. Sparky the dog wants to remind you that when you change your clocks, change the battery in your smoke alarms. Speaking of which, when was the last time you tested the battery in your smoke alarm? At least once a month, push the button on your smoke alarm to make sure it's working properly. Remember, test alarms for life.
Hello, I'm Mike Terhune with the Tallahassee Fire Department. Did you know the chance of fires caused by candles greatly increase during the winter months? Please take care when using candles in the home. Keep lit candles out of reach of children and pets. And remember, never leave lit candles unattended in the home. When you go out,
For more life-saving tips, visit the Fire Department's website at talgov.com.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Today we're talking about airport safety at the Tallahassee Regional Airport. So let's get back with our guest, Deputy Director of Aviation, David Pollard. Thanks for being here. And Lieutenant Billy Fox, you're the company officer at the ARF station. Thanks for sticking around for another segment. So this is a pretty exciting topic. I really feel like a lot of our viewers probably know very little about the airport. You know, I've spent 15 years at the Tallahassee Fire Department, and it's still, there's so much out there that I don't know about it. So before the break, we were talking about some of that, the safety procedures and protocols and the synergy between all the different agencies. David, what kind of training goes in for yourself, your staff, to work at the Tallahassee Airport?
Right. Well, there's many different types of training that we go through. First off, most of our staff that's working in airport operations, they have college degrees specifically tailored towards airport management. Aside from that, we go through various security training, emergency preparedness training, things such as wildlife training, how to recognize and identify the types of wildlife that are on or near the airport that we need to be concerned with as well.
That's interesting. Lieutenant, how about you? I mean, when you go to fire school, I think typically you're learning how to be a structural firefighter and mule kick the door and go inside that house and stomp that fire out. But this is a different beast, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Our particular training is mandated, by the Federal Aviation Administration, and it consists of 11 chapters. 11 chapters that is to be spread out over a 12-month period. And it ranges from aircraft familiarizations to cargo hazards to command and control to personal safety, use of extinguishing agents, use of turrets and nozzles, application of those extinguishers. The FAA doesn't exactly put down in writing how much and what specifics as they want to see a consistency. And what we try to do is we spread that over a 12-month period, and we try to double up on it. We don't wait. We are required to do an annual burn, with a ferocious firefighter. We have some pictures later on that actually show the simulator that's brought down from Kellogg College up in Michigan, and everyone's required to be an emergency medical technician, and also up to date on all the equipment. They got to be versatile. They got to be actually intimate with all three of those types of equipment out there.
We refer to it as ARF. What does the ARF stand for, David?
It's Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting, and it's important to note that these are the firefighters, the trained personnel. When seconds count after an emergency or an event happens, these are the trained professionals that will be there to knock that door in or get that escape path established for those personnel on that aircraft to hopefully keep them safe.
Now, Lieutenant, I would imagine it's different to navigate that airfield. That's not like coming out of Station 1 downtown and coming down and responding to Duval Street. How do you navigate that airfield?
These equipment, these particular units, they're 180,000 pounds empty. They have 3,000 gallons of water, 500 pounds of dry powder, and 500 gallons of foam. And the difference between us, and the downtown units, when they begin operations, they're committed. Our ARF units, they have to remain mobile, because of the incidents consistently changing. We use the equipment on board, the infrared, the backup cameras, and also the radios to talk to each other, the control tower, and they help maneuver us around on the field to keep us separated from those aircraft.
So, David, are there just two runways? When I look at the map, it looks like there's just two airstrips.
Right. There's two pieces of pavement. If you approach it from each end, it's actually 4 runways. So we have runway 9 and 27, which is our east and west runway, and then runway 18 and 36, which is our north and south runway.
Okay, and those follow the degrees on a compass?
The degrees in a compass, exactly.
Okay, so that's standardized around the world or around the nation,
yes,
or what?
Around the world.
Okay, so Atlanta has more than likely runways that run the same direction, and so forth.
Exactly, right.
So once they once an aircraft comes off that runway, where do they go to? They go to like a taxiway?
Well, depending on the type of aircraft it is, yes, they'll exit from the runway. They're, of course, talking to the control tower along the way. And once they exit off the runway, they'll clear the runway, report that they're clear of the runway, and then they'll enter the taxiway environment to get to their final destination. Their final destination may be the commercial aircraft ramp, or it may be the general aviation ramp over by the FBO.
Okay, and Lieutenant, your equipment, you have a radio that where you're talking to airport operations personnel and you're talking to the tower. So when you move around on that airfield, I would imagine it's important, since the airplanes are coming in, coming in for landings, taking off. You may not always see these things, particularly at night. You communicate with the tower. What's that like?
We follow the same rule as the aircraft. When we move into what we call the movement area, where the aircraft operate, we're required to, there's the same rules and the separations. And the aircraft is really, the airport is actually a different place at night. When it's really super dark, and we have some of the worst weather, out there in our field as far as fog. So it's so important, for us to train on airport familiarization. So we operate at night and train in the daytime as well, both days.
And that leads us to an interesting question: is what happens at nighttime out there, David? What happens to the airfield if there's commercial traffic all hours of the night?
As Billy mentioned, it is a very different environment out there. So we actually train our staff and anybody that goes out there onto the active movement area. All pieces of pavement at the airport are divided into either movement area or non-movement area. The movement area is where they have to talk to the control tower and get permission to move about upon the airport and all. So it's very important that people follow those procedures and talk to the control tower.
So will you have private, I guess we call it general aviation, that's like the private plane. Will you have private traffic come in at night when there's no tower open?
Yes, absolutely. It's called an uncontrolled airport at that point. The control tower, they wrap up their operations at 11 p.m. each night. The airspace here locally goes over towards the Jacksonville Center, and they're the ones that control the aircraft that come in and out of the airport at that point. Okay,
and then Lieutenant, that's an interesting point, because I think we had hundreds of planes for some of the football games recently.
Wow, yes, at Florida State Notre Dame game, we had 300 aircraft operating in and around each other. We had every ramp full. We had to close the taxiway to put them on, and about 198 of them were multi-million-dollar jets. And I'm glad to say that everyone got out without bumping a wing or tagging the terminal. Good job. Dave's team especially, devised a plan to maneuver those aircraft in one direction, and I think we're going to go with that, from here on out.
Right, and that requires a lot of oversight, and much like we have to clear game day traffic around the stadium for the cars, the airplanes are really no different. So it's very important, and it's not just during the football games. I would imagine there's some other events like during the legislative session and certain times of year where you've got a lot of general aviation. So, okay, all right. Well, will you stick around for one more segment?
We sure will.
Sure will.
All right, don't fly away, right?
Right.
Okay, so when we return, we're going to take a look at some of the emergency mock disasters that have taken place at the Tallahassee Regional Airport. Stick around.
I am here to save lives.
What happened?
He came from out of nowhere.
When people need help, I respond.
During a crisis, I remain calm.
She's got a head injury.
I am a 911 dispatcher, and you can be one too.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
The Consolidated Dispatch Agency has openings for public safety communications operators. Dispatchers earn nearly $30,000 a year with benefits, receive on-the-job training, and have a flexible schedule. If you want to save lives, visit talgov.com and apply today.
Hello, I'm firefighter Kathy Golke. Having smoke alarms in your home reduces the chances of you dying in a fire nearly in half. Install smoke alarms in your home and test the batteries each spring and fall. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
Hello, I'm Captain Leroy James. More fires start in the kitchen than any other place in the home, and cooking fires are our #1 cause of home fire and home fire injuries. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. Don't be afraid to use it. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
The Tally Parks app, a free app from the city of Tallahassee, is available for download. With the app, you can search by trail marker, scan QR codes on trails to find locations, and find features like basketball courts or playgrounds. The Tally Parks app is free in the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. The Tally Parks app is a great app for discovering the best parks in America. Unlike other map services, It helps you find all the parks and trails, plus the hidden gems that make Tallahassee unique.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Today's show is focusing on the Tallahassee Regional Airport and how the Tallahassee Fire Department works with staff at the airport to keep you, your family, and all the travelers that come in and out of Tallahassee safe. So let's get back to our discussion here. The Deputy Director of Aviation, David Pollard, and Lieutenant Billy Fox, you guys stuck around for the last segment here. So before the break, we were talking a little bit about some of that heavy traffic that we get at the airport and that how you handle that that general aviation piece during some of those football games, during the legislature. I think something that's interesting to talk about is the emergencies that occurred. Not all of them occur on the airfield. Some planes have crashed. They crash in our area that we have to deal with. That's something that we still have to look at, right?
Absolutely. Yes, our airport emergency plan, we cover a 5-mile grid around the airport. So we center it off the airport's surveillance radar, and then we go out 5 miles from that. And that's kind of our response area. Not to say we wouldn't respond outside of that area, but we certainly become a technical resource for our first responders and community should something happen related to aviation.
Okay, well, yeah, I brought some photos along, so we're going to take a look at some of those pictures now from some recent emergencies that have occurred. Billy, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at right here.
This is an example of an off-field crash. It was occurred over Quincy. The aircraft lost power and was trying to make a field, and it landed in the trees, as you can see, and had a crew of 3 on board. When we got to the pilot, he had actually opened the door and fell 20 feet to the ground, and the first thing he said to us was, "Watch that first step." So we felt that he was okay, and we were able to rescue the remaining crew members, and that one had a happy ending.
And so what are we looking at in the picture here on the left? That's one of our ladder trucks?
That's one of our ladder trucks. It actually went up and sent a team up to secure the aircraft, what we call marry it to that tree. And then we were able to disassemble certain parts of it around the passengers and actually get them out of there without any more injury or minimum damage to the aircraft, because now it goes to the NTSB. They need to find out what happened, and that's part of our job is property preservation as well as evidence preservation.
Let's take a look at this next picture here. This is pretty interesting. This is a crash that occurred. I say a crash. Is that the right term for that, David?
Well, we would call it more of an incident.
Incident, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is tell us about what we're looking at here, David.
Well, this was an E-9 military aircraft that was conducting operations at the airport. And in this case, unfortunately, every once in a while we'll have pilot error occur. And in this case, what happened was they failed to lower their landing gear. So we had to respond to this. Our firefighters, of course, did a great job responding to this and went through some very detailed efforts following this incident to actually raise the aircraft so they could drop those landing gear.
Now, what are we looking at on the ground around the airplane? It looks like some kind of fluid. What is that?
Right. Well, that's the aqueous film-forming foam. They call it AF. And that's the agent that the firefighters will apply to prevent and smother that fire and all. So in this case, there was not an actual fire, so it's probably more of a precautionary measure on their part. But it's important to know that you see our airport fire crews, you see off-airport engine there that's at the airport. So our fire crews are actually supported by off-airport stations as well.
Okay, so it's interesting because I see a lot of military aircraft flying around Tallahassee from time to time. Big cargo planes. I'll even see jet fighters. We do have military aircraft. What, Lieutenant, tell us about where they're from and what they're doing in town.
Right, we have 6 military bases around us that utilize our airport. We have a contract fueling agreement with the government, so they're able to come in and fuel, and the crews are able to take a little R&R and stretch their legs. We have a variety from helicopters to fixed wing, the jets of all the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the helicopters out of Fort Rucker, and also the Coast Guard utilizes our airport as well. The Marine Corps, they're part of the Navy group. And I would say, a good portion of our general aviation traffic is military aircraft.
Well, I've got some pictures I want to show now. It's from some recent mock disasters that have taken place at Tallahassee Airport. David, tell us about what we're looking at and about the mock disasters, why we do them, and what they are.
Absolutely. What you're seeing here is actually every 3 years we must accomplish a full-scale mock aircraft disaster or mock disaster exercise. And what you're seeing here is those firefighters, they've got to get a live burn certification as a part of that exercise. You'll see us involving all of our response personnel, the actual training aircraft that must be part of that exercise and all. We have over 20 to 30 different agencies that are a part of our airport emergency plan, so it's important for us to coordinate with them. The firefighters getting into that aircraft, being able to pull people out of there, establish that escape path and all. And of course our wonderful volunteers that come out and help us with the exercise. We're very glad to have them, get them out to the airport, let them be a part of our overall preparedness planning efforts and all. And it's something they really love and enjoy doing.
And you have to do this how often?
We've got to do that once every 3 years. Every year that we don't do the full-scale exercise, we do a tabletop exercise.
Okay, and it was interesting you told us before the show about when you have the mock event, you have everyone sign in. And how many agencies did you say you have out there?
And it varies from time to time. You know, we'll just go and count, but anywhere from 20 to 30 different agencies, sometimes even more than that. You know, you may not think about post office as being one of the agencies, but it's certainly, as they carry mail on board these aircraft, that might be one of the agencies that we're responding with.
Okay, how many events have we had in terms of these crashes and things on and around the airfield in the last, say, 15, 20 years? Some people may not know that we've had any. How many have we had?
Well, there's, on any given year, you know, we have our different alert categories that we classify these things into. And, you know, I don't have the exact numbers at this point, but it's safe to say that every year we have many different incidents and maybe accidents that occur that we need to be ready for as a community.
Right, and that could be anything from a little smoke in the cockpit, maybe a commercial airliner has an alert light. They're going to have you roll out in the runway and escort them in. You may have gear problems where they, you were telling me about how you'll fly the plane over and you'll do a visual on the landing gear to see if it's locked out. So there's lots of different types of emergencies, and that sort of dictates how you respond to them.
Exactly, and that's part of the overall preparedness. We've got various sections of our emergency plan that we use as the basis for our response, but we certainly need to be able to anticipate any event occurring. And of course, as I said, working with our first responders, we've got to respond to those incidents as they pop up, and very oftentimes it's at very little or short notice.
Yeah, and it's such an important you know, part of the safety piece when you look at the airport, because you're dealing with a large number of lives. I mean, you may have 100, 150 passengers on an airplane. So, I mean, you're talking about a mass casualty, and depending on if that airline, you know, lands in a particular spot, you can have more people affected. So it's very important. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on the show today. It's been very enlightening for me, and I'm sure that our viewers would agree. So, and thank you both for the work you do to keep us safe. So,
we appreciate it, and we're glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we will see you next time on Scene with TFD. Stay safe.